Well, Merry Christmas. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Maybe it's snowing already. It's December 13th when this video should come out, and so perhaps in Nova Scotia we've had some snow. I hope we have. I like snow. Maybe it's melted away. Maybe it's still around. Who knows? However, today on this video, I want to talk a little bit about Christmas symbolism. And so gather your family up, have the kids come together, and let's talk about the symbols of Christmas, because there's a few of them. In fact, there's some you can see in the background of the video here. And I'm sure if you think for a moment, pause the video perhaps after I give this question, look around your room, look around your house. What symbols do you see in your Christmas decorations that point to Christ? That is what we want to talk about, because there's a lot of decorations that we put up that have nothing to do with Christ. In our house, and I think we got it when me and my wife first got married, we got this, it's about yay tall. It's this fox that's standing up as if it was a humanoid. And it has like a winter coat on with a little furry hood, which is kind of odd because where would the fur have come anyways? That's a rabbit hole not to go down. But it's just this winter decoration that we like, kind of folky looking. And so we have that out, but that has nothing to do with the Christmas season. Sure, it might have something to do with the winter season, but we're decorating for Christmas. So, but there's a number of decorations throughout our house, throughout my office, throughout your house most likely, here in the church building, that point to Christ. And I want to talk about those because what's neat is you could have a decoration in your house right now that has a history behind it that points to Christ, and you might not even be aware of it. Children, you might be wondering, why on earth do we bring a tree into our house? Well, there's a good reason for that. Why do we put a star on top of it? Why do we put an angel out? Why do we have candy canes? What's with the bells? All these other things. And there is answers for those questions and a reason behind them. And so pause the video and just look around and think, what symbols do we have here today that in your home that your kids can see, or that you can see, or that you can see that point to Christ? And so hopefully you found some. But let's talk about some of them. One of the main and easy ones is a nativity scene. A nativity scene being something like this. This is the Little Tykes one. I think that, or no, sorry, not Little Tykes, Little People one. And so we got our little sheep, and there's a cow and a camel and a donkey, Mary and Joseph and a Jesus, and there's an angel, and then the manger, right? Now, whether it was a cave or a shack like this, we can talk about that another day. Now, it actually does come with the wise men, but as I've said, that's years later, so I didn't put it up there. That thing today, it's like $100 and some. Absolutely crazy. But a nativity, whether it's that little one for little kids or a wooden one, maybe you've made one yourself. Friends of mine, they have a big one that they put hay out at the front of the yard, then they have the nativity, I think it's in plywood cut up, and then they shine lights on it. And I love driving past that, love seeing it. Obviously it's a symbol of the Christmas story because you have the birth of Jesus happening right there. Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus, and the little farm animals around, the angel on top. Although shouldn't the angel be in the distance and a star be on top? But that's all right. There it is. So that one's pretty easy because it points straight to the story. Now let's talk about the angel. Well, when we put angels up, maybe you have an angel, little angel that you hang on your tree, or you put your angel on the top of the tree kind of thing. Well, that's pointing to the angels that came to the shepherds in the field and proclaim the coming Christ. Now, maybe you don't put an angel on your tree. Maybe you put a star on your tree. Right now, we don't have our tree up. Our tree goes up on this coming Saturday. I'm recording this near the end of November. And no, we do. We put a star up. I was going to say, I don't remember what we put up. Now, what I've wanted to put up is a biblically accurate angel. Now, there's different types of angels, so this is a subject for another day. But the angel where it's like these rings and eyes and wings and stuff that looks like right alien kind of looking, I would love to get something like that to put on top of the tree. I don't know if my wife would ever let me, but I could do it when she's not looking. At any rate, we put an angel or a star on top of our tree. The angels symbolize the angels that came to proclaim the coming of Christ, the birth of the Messiah. And the stars, because the wise men, although yes, 2-3 years later, but we clump it together into the Christmas story, they followed the star that rested over top of the house where Mary, Joseph, and Jesus were. And that's what led them to him, and came and bowed down and worshipped him and gave him gifts and recognized his kingship of who he was. And then, so that's what the stars symbolize. On top of that, there's the gifts. We give gifts to one another. Now, that has gone a little bit too far in a lot of areas where materialism is just rampant. But we give gifts to one another, and it's nice to have a giving heart and to find delight in giving a gift to someone. And it points back, at least it should point back, to the gifts that the wise men gave to Jesus and his family, which carried them for a number of years as they fled to Egypt. But it points to that. Now, there's also candy canes. Candy canes, the shape of them, right? Now you could say, oh, well, if you flip it upside down, it's a J for Jesus. Well, it was Hebrew. But for those of us in the English world, sure, you can take that and run with that if you want. But it represents the shepherd's crooks, right? The staff that a shepherd would hold on to once again point to the shepherds who were proclaimed and came to see the coming Messiah and who went off praising God as a part of the Christmas story. So there's that element of it. There's bells. I don't have any in here, but bells are a very often Christmas decoration that we'll see. In fact, I think there's, jingle bells. There we go. My mind goes to Batman smells. But jingle bells and the idea of proclamation of good news when a new king or a birth or something like that, that the town would let the bells chime, and that the sound carried throughout the town, and so people would hear it and be able to know that something has happened, something good has happened, right? And this proclamation, and so there's the bells in that. And then there's these guys, right? This is a tiny. Oh, she left the price tag on there, but there's the Christmas trees. There's a bit of debate. History of where the Christmas trees came from. I'll tell you where I land in my study of history. What I've found is it's a German tradition, started in Germany, and I would say it started in northern Germany. And what we have in, I don't remember the time period, but if you look up St. Boniface, you'll find him, is this missionary named St. Boniface. And he came up and many years ago, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago kind of thing, I did this teaching around Christmas time. It wasn't on YouTube, just in the sanctuary, and we talked about this. But St. Boniface came in, and there was the pagan holiday at the same time, where they would gather around these great trees, these giant oak trees out in the woods kind of thing. And I don't know if it was specifically oak, but these really big hardwood trees, they gather around them and they would worship their pagan gods. And one of the things that they did was a child sacrifice. And so St. Boniface comes in, he picks up an axe and says, that his God is greater. And the story goes, as he swung the axe, a great wind came through the forest floor, and with one blow, he knocked the tree over. The wood from that actually went to build the church there. And so, the kid doesn't get killed that day. And Boniface, in the silence of what was happening, he says, don't look at these great oak trees. Instead, take a young evergreen tree, take it home, take it into your house, and may it remind you of Christ as you take him into your home. The evergreen tree, it never dies, Sure, trees die, but the idea that throughout the winter it continues to have its life, it continues to have its green. It's pointed, as it points up to heaven, to point to the glory of God. And so that's where the tradition came from. That's where the symbol came from. And my recommendation to you is you make a new family tradition. When you go and cut that tree down and you bring it home, you point that out to your kids. Hey, see how this points up? It shows to heaven. It doesn't lose its life. It's evergreen. We bring it into our home like we bring Christ into our hearts. Isn't that, there's a lot of nice parallel, a lot of nice symbolism there. Now we put lights on our trees, or maybe you put candles out. It used to be that you put candles on your tree. One tradition we have is going around after Christmas and picking up all the Christmas trees that people throw out and having a massive bonfire. So the idea of putting candles on a tree, terrifying. But before electricity, that's what they did. But now we go and we put lights, like on that little thing back there, on the trees. And the story goes, Martin Luther, great theologian from history, was walking through the woods one night, and as he looked through the pine boughs and he saw the stars through them, in space, it was beautiful, and it reminded him of the majesty and the greatness of creation, of God's creation. As Psalm 8 says, when I look to the moon and the stars of the heavens, that I'm in awe of your creation. And so similarly, that's why we do that, to mimic that thing and to put, it's beautiful, it's nice, it reminds us of God's creation. And so that's wonderful. And it points to Christ. And so there's a number of symbols there. Well, here's one. How does a deer, right, or a reindeer connect to Jesus' birth? I'll tell you, it doesn't. But it's winter time, and we see deer more at winter time because they just finished the rut and they're moving around and whatnot, and so that just is an added symbol that really doesn't carry much weight. It doesn't really point to the story. This is a nativity in a snow globe. What about snow globes in general? My wife loves snow globes, but not all of them are going to be an actual symbol of Christmas. Now that one is, because it's a nativity scene inside of it. But if it was, the New York City skyline, it's just that city in wintertime. So there's some decorations, and they're not all bad, that don't point to Christ. They're just around that time of the year. But my recommendation is, as you put up your lights, you talk about it, you remind yourself, as you're sitting in your living room drinking your hot chocolate or apple cider, or for some of you people out there, eggnog, which is gross, as you drink these holiday kind of drinks and you look around, you would see the tree and let that remind you of the never dying Son of God, who brings eternal life, who points up to heaven. As you put the star on top of your tree, you're reminded of the wise men who came and recognized the authority and the kingship of Christ. As you hand gifts to one another, you're reminded of the ultimate gift. And to talk about that and to point that out and to bring everything back to Christ. Because after all, one of my other favorite Christmas decorations is those big signs, and I gotta make one for my own yard that just simply says, Jesus is the reason for the season. And many, many, many of our Christmas decorations point to that. The beautiful thing is when you know that that's what they're doing, and you're able to remind each other and remind yourself of that, because once again, it brings you back into that point of view of seeing that this is not just a celebration of good sales at the store. This is not just a celebration of winter. It's not just a celebration that winter's almost over and spring's coming, or some other holiday from the past. No, this is a celebration that Christ has come. And what great news that is for all of us. So, as you go about your day, decorating things, making snowflakes, whatever, may you be reminded, Jesus is Christ, Jesus is King, and he has come, and how wonderful that is. Merry Christmas. May you honor God in all you do, including the things you put around your house. Have a great week, and Merry Christmas.